Good morning, Jenny.
Hi, Nicole.
Thanks for coming back on to Realty to talk to me for looking into this year. We've already obviously started. We're shooting this in February, so we're 1 month in. But last year, you were the most popular listened to episode for us, which I love. And I always say that if our crew has a long lifespan, we have a lot of people that are like 10, 15 years and much more than that. It feels like you've been on our team forever. I don't know if you feel that way, but I was thinking that this morning. It just does. Like I think that's why the podcast goes well, because we're just like on the same page all the time, which I love.
And it's only been about 18 months, if you can
It's
believe that.
insane. And we must have been sisters in like another life. Something. Cousins. Maybe I was your mom. I don't know.
Who knows?
Anyways, so we talked last year about planning for the year, and I did want to just kind of call attention to the fact that, well, can you introduce yourself and give your title, and then I'll sort of back it out from there.
Sure. My name is Jeni Pardo de Zela, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Gibson Sotheby's International Realty.
Thank you. And that title, obviously, you run our marketing department, right? You're a marketing wizard. But one thing that I love about your style and the way that you come at the role is that you have an incredible team that I think that you manage so well, and that they all just seem to know that you trust them and they do their thing. And the whole thing is amazing to me. But that allows you to really focus on planning, right? Planning for the company, planning for like big picture business planning on what is ahead for marketing, what should we be doing, letting us stay on that cutting edge. You're not kind of down in the weeds trying to do the day-to-day, which wouldn't allow us to really propel forward. And you do that for agents. I think, how many agents did you meet with last year? I feel like you gave me that stat at one point.
Oh my God. I think I met with over 75 agents in the last 18 months or so. Yeah.
In like a personal sit down meeting.
Personal sit downs where I could, or a Zoom like this, where if they were someplace that they couldn't be.
Yeah.
But most of those were in person. Yes.
Which is really rare. And I think that that's what I wanted to come at this conversation with, that in mind, that you do sit with our group, but just in general, that you're thinking big picture, thinking, how do we create these marketing plans? So last year we had this amazing episode. We talked all about like what you should be doing, how you should be planning. And of course, real estate's cyclical. And we were sort of at the end of a boom toward the end of last year. And some people didn't do as well as they had in the years prior last year, which is to be expected. But now looking into 24, I think a lot of people hear, oh, you want to make a marketing plan with me? Like I might really not have the dollars that I maybe was planning for in other years. And so what you had proposed to me this year when I brought up the topic again was marketing on a budget, or even really with no budget. And I think that's something you've been focusing on. And I was like, yes, we have to do that. So I can't wait to do this and roll this all out with you, because I think that a lot of people are going to be all ears for this one. Do you want to get started just by like almost act as if like we're doing this meeting, right? I'm an agent. What should I do this year? I don't have much of a budget. What is my first and biggest thing that I should be focusing on?
Yeah, so I want to touch on a couple of things that you brought up. So the first thing, I think one of the pieces of my role that is different is, yes, I am meeting with people, but we're also in a very large footprint in Massachusetts. And because I'm traveling to different regions of the state, I'm actually seeing what people are doing in different regions. And that allows me to bring ideas from Newburyport all the way to Provincetown based on what's happening in different markets. And we've got some really brilliant agents who are doing some really unique things. So the opportunity to kind of share that around our network is wonderful. I think based on our conversation last year, if you recall correctly, the way that we kind of talked about it is what is the least expensive and the highest impact, down to what is the most expensive and has the lowest impact, is kind of the way that I run the conversation. And email marketing and social media, digital, are still number one for the least expensive thing that you can do with the highest ROI. You can just reach more people for little to no money on digital. And so that's where I start the conversation typically. But I will tell you, based on our conversation last year, it all still holds true. Nothing's really super exciting has changed as far as like what you should be doing. And more than anything else, database. If you don't have a database, that's your number one step. Start there.
I love that. And yeah, I always try to think of like how I'm being marketed to for things that I use or want to use or don't know that I even want to use. And I think I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's easy to get caught up in like some of the expensive things. Oh, what if I drop out of this or drop out of that magazine, or I should do this? And sometimes those things are great. And there's definitely a time and a place, but people get really stressed about those things. And, it's the rolling up your sleeves, getting into your database, segmenting the database. And sometimes it's really just, I was having an interesting conversation with people about prospecting, and it's like, go through your client list and send a meaningful message to everyone. It doesn't even have to be about, it could be about their dog. It's the fact that this world is so loud. People get so much noise constantly. A personal reach out is just like absolute back to basics, but that's kind of what email marketing and all that should be is, right? Especially if you're using segments. But I think it's so important to kind of start the conversation with that. Like that does count as marketing, right? There's ways, and it's really just elbow grease, really. Like take the time, put it on your calendar, and be consistent, which isn't always easy, but it's free.
Yeah. So that to me is definitely one of the big ones is certainly looking at your database and you bring it up. One of the agents that I met with last year out of the South End office, he did a lot of work before getting into his first CRM, and he works with a lot of renters and first time home buyers and some sellers, and he will send out different emails, to your point, personal touch. If you're a first time home buyer, he may be telling you about changes in rates, in mortgage rates. If you're a renter from him, he's talking to you about moving resources, those types of things. And he has an over 80% open rate on his emails, which is almost absolutely unheard of in real estate. So to your point, doing the bit of work and segmenting so that you are driving value and communicating in a personal way that means something to me as the person receiving any marketing communication from you is huge.
I love that. Yeah. Cutting through the noise. Do you have any other like kind of like cutting through the noise tips in terms of just things that are?
I think it is, the other piece of it is consistency. A lot of times when I talk to agents, and this is still holding true, although I've got some converts and we've talked to, I've got some good people who are on my team now as far as email marketing. They still say that they don't want to, quote unquote, bother their clients. And I'm like, but if you're bringing value, you are not bothering them. So then it's a bigger conversation of what does your email marketing look like? If you're just sending me a cookie recipe and you don't have a background of owning one of the greatest bakeries in town, then I'm sticking with Nestle Toll House and you have not brought me any value. But if you're talking to me about, I'm a first time home buyer and you're telling me the steps that I need to take to prepare my home for hurricane season on the Cape, well, now you're bringing me some value. So figuring out those pieces. And I think that's the piece of it is, one, the value again, and then the consistency. You can't just email people once a year and expect them to remember who you are. We do get bombarded with so much communication. You have to, kind of stand out a little bit. And if you're, I think of when it comes to some social media and some different things, I've seen some really great things around the industry before. People consistently posting a theme every week, so I know it's coming. We have a team that posts a coffee talk every week where they kind of do a YouTube video and then they post it, and it's coming and you see it in your feeds, and you look forward to it. So having again that consistency, that messaging, that helps cut through all of that.
And the segmenting, I want to just kind of like go back to really quick to make sure everyone knows what segmenting means. It basically is we talked about this last year too, and I'm sure everyone does know, but it's looking through your list and being sure that it's categorized, basically like sellers, buyers, different towns, referral contacts, agents that are listening to this. I started my kind of like career in the referral and relocation division, and I get a lot of emails from agents in other markets, and I commend anybody that's sending them. I'll say something that might be an unpopular opinion, but stop sending all of your new listings and all of your just solds. I live a plane ride away, right? I want to know, give me the high level, what's going on in your market. Give me something I can talk about and I'll think, and you'll be front of mind. Well, you are front of mind if you're blasting me with your just solds. It's not in a good way, really. Right. Like make sure that to your point about noise, make sure that your marketing is actually valuable to the people you're sending it to. Everyone doesn't some people might want to see your just solds when they live in that neighborhood. They want to see what it's sold for. When they might be looking to buy in that neighborhood. They want to see what they could get. But other than that, you really should be thinking about other ways to drive value to different people that you do want to market yourself to. And those are all free things. It's really just, I think, sitting down with your list and thinking, what's the value I want to provide? And then you can brainstorm, especially if you're in our company with Jeni, about like, hey, here's my 3 segments. I want to figure out how to provide a different like type of value to this one list, right? So just kind of thinking those things through, I think would be a great way to start the year.
And I think people have forgotten that you can create lists like in Facebook too. So you could create a list of referral agents that you've befriended over the years, and you can just post that so that only they will see it, or only your first-time home buyers, or your new clients that are looking. All of those different things you can segment in other platforms as well. So don't forget that.
A pro tip too. I wish that there was a way to do it more than just this in Instagram. But I know I and Instagram have saved all of our agents and any like friends that I have that are agents. And I do speak to my like close friend list about things that are going on in the company, things that are going on in the industry, because I have a lot of people that follow me that are just like friends and things too. But then people that really might be people I do business with, but just not in that way. So think about your close friends list on Instagram and what that maybe could be, because that's going to be different for everyone. But it might be, this is my wheelhouse. This is my market. I'm going to put everybody that lives in this market in my close friends. And it's not weird because a lot of people are using it that way. And start to add to your story, just stuff all pertinent to your community, however you want to do it. But I love that segmenting the list in Facebook is something that's a really great tip.
And free.
Yeah.
I love free. If it's free, it's for me, right?
Right. So speaking of free, obviously, if you could, I had kind of a 2-part question, but talk through Gibson's marketing support a little bit and just like how people are able to tap our team specifically for our agents listening. Because obviously all of that is free to them to get in touch with the resources within the company. And then we do have tools too. So marketing tools, kind of the second part of that question. Specifically, again, if you're at Gibson, what marketing tools might you have? But most of these tools, even if you're not at Gibson and you're listening and you're an agent, something that you could pay to use. So I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah. So a lot of times when I'm meeting with agents and we're, the big thing that we're working on is a marketing plan for the year. So it's not usually a one-off conversation about, I'm thinking about doing a mailer. It's how does that mailer drop into the rest of the plan for the year? And so once I've had that conversation with the agents, I will then introduce them in the conversation that we had to their regional marketing manager, who will then help build the assets for them. So it depends on what they're looking to do. If it's a social media campaign, we may help them create some templates that when they're ready to do a new listing, or they want to feature, I don't know, Wallpaper Wednesday, whatever it is that they want to do, they'll have a template ready for them that they can work within. And so you just contact me and the team, and we can help you really personalize some of the pieces that we have. Our focus right now, beginning of the year, not a surprise, is really working on listing presentations and making sure that everybody has all of that ready to go so that they're not in a panic when the spring market heats up, which it's going to. I'm very positive that it's going to. But having those materials ready to go, and we can create those in strictly a digital format if you'd like, or print as well.
Yeah, and everything that we do, which is such a great point right now, if it's a little quieter, which I really love from my standpoint, is set it and forget it. Right. So a lot of the stuff, segmenting your list, working on your databases, is all like things that you do it now, you don't have to do it again. It's done. And if you want these templates created, you go through marketing, and it might be a little bit of extra effort, but it's free. Make your template the way that you want it, tweak some templates. Now the whole year they're done. And with our company, the whole way it's designed is your stuff just happens automatically. You tell people when I bring on a new listing, this is exactly what my templates are going to look like for all of my collateral. And you're going to get all those drafts without even pinging the team. To obviously proof, but at the same time, put the work in now. If it's kind of quiet, make sure you're refreshing all those templates and working with you guys to talk through what your overall plan is, because you guys might help and have suggestions on how to tweak things too, and maybe put your effort into a different area that you might not be thinking about.
Right. It's a lot of times agents will come in and they're like, well, I saw this agent in California doing this or that sort of thing. And I'm like, but you didn't see all the work before. It's kind of like when we watch the Olympics and we see Michael Phelps win all the, the gold medals, but we didn't see him jump into the pool at 5 a.m. every day for years. And that's the stuff that you have to work on, is jumping in the pool and getting all of those assets ready. To your question about some of the tools that we have, I want to start off with one that is available to everybody in the whole wide world, and that's Google. Google and YouTube are your number one and number two search engines in the world. And if you have not taken the time to create a business profile, that should be one of the things that you're doing as well. Because if people are searching for you and your business profile comes up, you can add, if you're getting testimonials, you can have your clients add those to your Google profile page. If you're doing any videos for Reels or Facebook or anything along those lines, you can also add them to your YouTube page. Those are pieces that you should be thinking about, and how are you utilizing them? For many, many years, people were very concerned about putting testimonials on Zillow. Understandably so. It was and still is a huge website. But you don't control Zillow.com. Zillow controls it, and you can control your own business profile on Google. And so that would be something that I would highly recommend that people look into.
I love that. And I couldn't agree more that that's something that's basically no work, no money and really very little work. So you might as well
Very little work.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, one of those things. Yeah, when you're looking at it. Internally, some of the tools that we have, we still offer the email marketing. So we do a monthly newsletter. I do have more people participating in that this year. I'm very happy to say, after a lot of those meetings. And we do have more people who are personalizing it. So every month, your office marketing coordinator sends out an email that will say things like, here's the February template. Please take a look. If you're interested, we can send it out to your sphere. And it goes out from you, the agent, to your sphere of influence. And then you can add things to it. So if you want to add an intro, hi, it's Jeni, here's what's happening, a little note about the market, or maybe if there's a nonprofit that you're interested in, or a great new pizza shop that opened up, whatever it is, you can highlight those pieces and work with the OMCs to do that. That's free. That doesn't cost you anything to access that tool. Just a little communication on your part. We also offer Real Scout, which is a really fantastic property search engine for your buyer clients, but it has some really wonderful marketing tools within it as well that kind of goes under the radar. One of them is that you can create a personalized landing page, and you can use that on your social media, or if you were using a QR code anywhere, and you can drive people back to that custom search page, landing page that's just you. So if somebody comes in and they're looking at properties, all of the leads go directly to you, the agent who's sharing that marketing piece. You can also create some custom searches. So for example, if I wanted to create a search for Wellesley, Massachusetts, I could use that. I could do a quick little search and then copy the URL and share that on social media. And again, it would, pop up with the listings that are available. And then again, all leads would go back to you, which is fantastic. And then they've also offered, and you get a limited number of users for free. And then there is a fee charged to it, but not much. I want to say $10 a month for 100 users. But there is a buyer prospect tool, which is essentially an AVM, that what's my home worth model. And you can do some lead gen through that as well. And so that's some very inexpensive marketing that's available, most of it free, and then a nominal fee with it.
I love that. And taking a little pivot, I feel like when we think of branding, personal branding, people think that comes with like a huge price tag. I feel like a rebrand, that for me at least, like I think like, oh, that'd be expensive. And trust me, like it can be. And if you want to take a deep dive, I'm sure you could help someone go down an expensive path to really do that like very well and in depth. But I also think that there's probably ways that they could just touch up their personal brand or refine their personal brand to help benefit their marketing for this year. Is there tips you have just high level for looking at your personal brand coming into this year and as you're doing all of this?
I think, when I think about branding with real estate agents, it gets a little confusing for many agents. Many agents think that it's a logo or it's colors. And to me, branding is so much more in depth than that. And I know that we will be talking about that in the future. But I think at a minimum, when you're looking at all of your assets out there in the digital world or anywhere, is your headshot up to date? Do you look like you actually look in person? That's a big one, right? I like to think so too. But I think we all know some agents who haven't updated their headshot in 10, 15, 20, 25 years and could use an update. Is your bio up to date? Does it reflect some of your most recent pieces? Anything new that you've been on? Are you on boards that you've forgotten to put into your bio? Are there significant sales that you would like to highlight? Taking a deep dive and looking at that. And then I think more than anything else is figuring out what's your unique value proposition. Why should I work with Nicole? Right.
Mhm.
So what makes you different than every other real estate agent in the world, and helping to identify that is a big piece. We have a really great logo and a really great brand, and the agents that do really well in this business just build on top of that.
Right.
So, the Sotheby's auction house has been around for 275 years. Sotheby's is an extremely well-known brand, and the agents who lean into that and then just build on top of it do really well. So I think, just kind of taking a look at your pieces and making sure that you're up to date on everything is huge. It's more than just a logo. Your
Yes.
brand is really your values. And to me, it's what people say about you when you leave the room.
That's what you always say that. And I love that. And I think that it's so true. Like if we're talking about, being on a budget, we're talking about putting in time and effort and energy. Let's not put time and effort and energy in something that we don't need to. It's as simple as, it might sound cheesy, but like from what you just said, I took away, like, you could take some time to almost like just write it out. What is your unique
Mhm.
value proposition? How do you make people feel? What's your true differentiator? And all you need to do is kind of make that clean and refined, and then run all of your stuff through that funnel. Does this align?
Mhm.
Does this align? But let the marketing department run with all of the actual physical branding, run with, you're here for a reason, right? That's done for you.
Mhm.
So I think that that's super important, and also free too, a free exercise to think about going into the new
Yeah.
year.
And one of the things I would say, and we can talk about this a little bit more in our next episode, but I also think sometimes it's hard to figure out your unique value proposition. And one of the ways to do it is to look at some of your competitors and kind of highlight the things that they do that you don't. Right. So, for example, if you're an agent who does every single showing for your listings, and your local competitors do not do that, highlight that piece. If
Mhm.
you are an agent, if all of the agents in your market do lock boxes and you don't, highlight that. Sometimes it's easier to look at the opposite than it is to look at yourself. Speaking of, like looking at headshots, and you're like, nobody likes their own headshots, but it's hard sometimes to look at your unique value proposition because it's the things that you just do. It's just who you are and what you do. But when you look at the opposite, sometimes that makes it easier to think about.
So true. And oftentimes you're probably doing the opposite. You're looking at what people do and you don't,
Oh, I
instead
would
of like,
never.
you have to do it the other way. Yeah. What else? What other tips do we have? What do you want to leave everyone with?
I think the other thing that I want to talk about is certainly social media. That is one of the, it's free. It's absolutely free to use. Um, and it is a great way to communicate with your sphere again. Again, consistency. Agents will say to me, well, I don't want to post more than, one time a week. And that's fine if that's what, you can do, as long as you're consistently posting that. I would recommend posting the same day and time if you can only do it once a week. But I think you have to remember that not everybody's on social media when you post, right? I mean, I'm there are days that I don't look at social media at all. As the head
Right.
of marketing for this company, I just don't have time. There's too much
Mhm.
going on, and it's not always, super important. Plus, to your point, I have a really great team that is watching our social and making sure everything's running beautifully. So you do need to be out there and in front of people. And if you have a Facebook business page and an Instagram account, and you can use the Meta business tools to schedule posts out as well. And that's a free resource for you. Um, but if you're looking for something that's a little bit more in depth that you want to get into, you can also participate in our social media concierge. Again, that's a small fee. So we will post on your behalf 4 posts per week. So that's an opportunity. And then some digital ads that we offer as well. You can run an ad in a geo-targeted area for $100 for the month, and you average, based on the area, about 10 to 12,000 impressions. So just to give you an example, to send a postcard, the larger postcards that we all prefer, it's about $1 per postcard to ship. So that's 100 households versus, for that same $100, 10,000 impressions.
Hmm.
So there's your economy of scale when it comes to digital. So if you're thinking about that, and we can do that, certainly we do it for listings, that we can do the program, but we can do it for you as well. And a lot of agents are using that program, the digital ads, and then driving it back into the Real Scout account and pushing things that way as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really all comes down to digital if you're trying to do things on the budget and truly make
Yeah.
an impact. There's just such a wider scope of people that you're going to be able to hit. I love that. And then I also want to talk a little bit about just like using social media to educate and potentially polling your audience. Can you walk people through how? Because I know that there's ways to do that that people may not know, and it really doesn't cost much, and it might allow you to add more value.
Yeah, I think if all of them, well, not all of them, but certainly Facebook and Instagram have some different polling features that you can do. Some of them in Instagram, I think it's just in the stories, and Facebook you can actually create it within the post. But asking questions, I think a lot of times that's where we tend to fall off on social media, is sometimes we think that we're just going to post it on there and move on. I put a post on and I moved on. I put a post on and I moved on. I'm like, but somebody commented. So you have to respond. It would be like if you were walking through a cocktail party and somebody said, I love your dress. And you just kept going,
Right.
you should
Like, why are you
stop and
there?
have a conversation. Yeah. Thank you so much. So really anytime that you can drive conversation is great. And you can also, there's different ways that you can get people excited. You can do different posts of, which kitchen do you like better? And you can get people to poll. There's lots of different little widgets within, they're probably not called widgets, it's probably an old school term, but within Instagram that you can ask questions and people will give you feedback. And it's just a great way to respond. And then you'll see who's responding to that and you can direct message them and have a conversation with them.
That's awesome. And I think from seeing, we talked about last year too, like everything's engagement, like social media is a conversation. It's not a one-sided thing. Act like you're at an event. It's social. You have to respond. So taking time, putting that in your calendar would be free, right? Taking time, and like
Mm-hmm.
you just said, you're really busy. I'm really busy. Everyone we're talking to is really busy. They're looking for things that are quick and efficient and they can be consistent. You could take time twice a week. You're scrolling at some point, and it could be at 7 in the morning. Could be whenever it's time for you. 20 minutes to reply to every comment that someone made, to make comments on a couple people's posts that may add to your sphere, to answer every single message that you get. I know I'm guilty of that. LinkedIn, all that stuff just adds up. Making time to really respond to all of that, because that's the stuff that's going to lead to something, and creating that conversation. And then, of course, with the polling or the educating or making sure that other people are interacting with your content, right? Just got some new information on the rates. Shoot me an email if you want that, right? Those
Mm-hmm.
are ways to test. You might get nothing, but nobody knows that. It's just, you want to create there, because the two people that are going to shoot you an email are probably really serious
Mm-hmm.
about figuring that out. And now you have those two people. So it's not like, oh, I only got two. I mean, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So just trying those things. And again, it's budget friendly, it's free, and just making that time to consistently do that and to interact with your audience. Because I do think that people get so focused on the expensive things, and this stuff goes way further. And it's really just, it's not that much time. It's just being consistent.
Yeah. And for the data geeks out there like myself, the nice part about digital is that you get analytics. You can actually see if it's working or not, which you can't get with a newspaper ad.
Right.
So you can see all the analytics. Is it driving traffic back? You can tweak the message, your subject line, whatever you want to do, and see if, what gets more hits and all of that. And it's very easy to do.
Which is so important for sellers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times people get really focused on, and I don't want to pick on print, but people get really focused on seeing their house in some certain place or whatever. And like, it's up to us to educate that you're like 10,000 people are going to see your house if we do it this way. And
Mm-hmm.
we have no idea how many people saw it this way, but we can go ahead and make an educated guess. And it's not always that you can't do both, but if you need to have that conversation just to kind of be able to show them, also a lot of people, whether they're data geeks or not, like it's results, right? Like show me what the results are. And that usually helps sway people too.
Yeah.
What can you leave us with? Anything else? I feel like we covered everything pretty quickly.
I think that the final thing that I would leave you with is, it all, we're all back to basics. This is,
Yeah.
we talked about it last year. We kind of gave people a teaser that this was coming, but it is back to basics, and really making that plan, taking the time to sit down and say, what is this going to look like? What, you know, and I always, I always remind agents, don't don't bite off more than you can chew. Just because it's January, December, January, when we're having these conversations and it's a slower time for you. I don't want you to, to build this marketing plan that would be the same as if it were for Gibson Sotheby's International Realty,
Right.
because you're still going to be doing sales and showings and inspections and all of those things. So the more important piece is consistency. So I'm a huge fan of time blocking and marking up your calendar, and claiming your time for yourself when you can. And then I would also caution, a lot of times agents will cancel appointments with themselves for things. And I would protect those as much as you can, because that's the important piece, is making the time to either do the social media, to think about what you're going to do for your email marketing, ask for Google reviews, whatever it is, just sit down, make the plan, and then execute.
Yeah, I love it. And just keep it simple. Like you said,
Yeah.
hopefully it is going to pick up, but let's make sure that everything is simple, repeatable. And if you're here and around, talk with one of us and have us. Jeni is the most honest person, and I love that about her. Show her what you're thinking. You don't have to find time to necessarily do a sit down or a follow up if you did do a sit down. I mean, I hate to just put that out there for you, but if you send Jeni your plan, she will tell you you aren't going to do these 10 things. So I'm really excited for future episodes with you. And thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun.
If you want to do a plan with Jeni and be one of the tallied meetings at the end of this year, reach out directly.